Good morning, everybody. Good morning. I hope you guys are doing well. Welcome to drboycetv.com, the home for intelligent Black people. My name is Dr. Boyce Watkins, and I am doing an audio check right now. And I would like to know, first of all, as you shout out your city that you're from, I would also like to know if you guys can hear me okay. If you can give me a yes in the chat, if you can hear me, let me know that I'm coming through all right. I'm super excited to be here today. We just got back from Dallas. Dallas was awesome, totally sold out. And we did a Black Wealth Summit and a training camp. So we did 2 straight days of nothing but Black wealth. Black wealth is important. Money is really important. One of my brothers, Tall Guy Tycoon, mentioned this, and I wanted to elaborate on this. Money is one of the leading causes of things like suicide. Money is one of the leading causes of depression. Money is one of the leading causes of divorce. Money is one of the leading causes of family fights. So one of the reasons why I think that if you want to be happy, you should master money is because if you master money, then you have at least one less thing to worry about, one less thing to fight about, one less thing to be depressed about. Give me a yes in the chat if you agree. Let me know if that even makes sense to you. And you guys can hear me okay? I just want to make sure. Am I coming through all right? All right, what's going on? Robert James Higgins and Gregory Bowers. Good morning. Clifford Tisdale. Hisham Allah, Eric Mahmoud. Okay, he says, can hear you fine, brother. Peace. Thank you very much, Eric. I appreciate that. All right, and let me know what city you're from. Some of y'all are from Dallas. We had a great time in Dallas. Tim Jackson joined me out there, and that was awesome. And we just had a good weekend. So anyway, let me do something. I do something every now and then for fun. I call it Dr. Boyce Exposed, and I like to do that just because there are people that sometimes things happen and people are like, I'm going to expose him. He really works for the Jews and he's getting money from the Jews, and which is just weird. Or he's really a white supremacist. And I'm like, oh, Lord, here we go again. So I said, you know what? Instead of other people claiming to expose me, I'm going to just expose myself. Like, that probably sounds weird, I know. But yeah, I said, let me just lay some stuff out and just be transparent about some stuff so we can kind of know what's really going on and what's what. And here's the thing. I've never ever once really asked you to believe in me. I'm not asking you to believe in me. I'm not your demagogue. I'm not the King Kong consciousness. I'm not the guy who is trying to be the next Black leader. I ain't trying to be none of that. You know what I am? I'm a college professor who was on the faculty of Syracuse University for 13 years, who knows finance at a very high level. And I was the only Black person on the planet to get a PhD in finance during the year 2002. The only Black person on the planet that I know of, male or female. There's nobody that year that I have met to this point who got a PhD in finance that year. And I'm a person who simply said, if Black people knew what I know about economics, a lot of our problems would go away. Give me a yes if you agree that one of the biggest problems Black people have is economics. Give me a yes if you agree that one of the biggest stressors that we have as Black people is economics. And give me a yes if you agree that if Black people understood money, we would probably have more money. Give me a yes if you agree that one of the quickest ways the white man puts his foot on your neck every damn day of your life is because he controls the money and you don't. Give me a yes. That's all I'm asking you to do. I'm not asking you to believe in me. I don't care. I'm not here to be, I'm not Don Juan, Mr. Smooth. I'm just a guy who has a message. And I believe this message was sent by God. I'm not a pastor. I'm not a religious guy, but I do believe, that there is divine intervention in terms of what we do. But I'd rather put a guy like Dr. Claude Anderson out there first. I'd rather put, a Malcolm X out there first. I think that those are your leaders, etc. I'm just one of your teachers, one of your advisors. So one of the things I want you to understand is that, rather than getting caught up in the charisma of any particular so-called Black leader, which has gotten us into a lot of trouble in a lot of cases, I would encourage you to get caught in the message. It's the message, man. The message. So I'm going to ask you to agree with me or to like me. I need to know, do you like the message? Do you agree with the message? That if we get our money right, if we understand economics at a very high level, our people will be better off in the end. Okay. And that's really what it is, because many of the problems Black people have really are traced back to economics. But then to go deeper than that, as a financial doctor, it's like when a doctor sees a symptom, he goes deeper to find out, well, what's the underlying cause of this symptom? right? Like if you're coughing and I stop you from coughing, yeah, I can control your symptoms, but that doesn't mean I've actually cured you. Like, oh, well, you're coughing because you have pneumonia. But then it may be deeper than that. Well, you have pneumonia because you really got cancer and your immune system's weak, right? So ultimately, for Black people, what you got to understand is that you feel stressed out. Many of us feel enslaved. Well, why? Well, because we don't necessarily have money. Well, why don't we have money? Well, because maybe we don't have financial knowledge and education that allows us to accumulate money. Well, why don't we have the financial knowledge and the education? I mean, the education's out there. It's available almost everywhere. But if you go deeper, pay attention now. It's maybe because you don't have the culture that facilitates the necessity to accumulate financial knowledge and information, which will therefore allow you to elevate your economic condition. Give me a yes if you understand what I'm saying. You got to understand. So when I wrote this book, I've told you guys about it, and where I'm going to really expose myself is I'm going to read the reviews of the book right off of Amazon, so you guys will know exactly what people are saying. I will read all of them, not all every one. There's 111 reviews. I did not get my friends to write fake reviews. And I'm just going to read it. I'm going to respond, especially if anybody has a criticism or something like that. But it's called The 10 Commandments of Black Economic Power. 90% of the reviews on this book were 5-star. There's a 5-star system. Go look at it now. You can look at it right now on Amazon. I cannot control Amazon reviews. 90% of reviews are 5-star. The rest are 4-star, and there was one review out of 111 that was 1-star. I have no idea who this person is or why they felt that way, but nothing's going to be perfect. So this book, the reason I wrote this book, and I spent 2 days in Dallas training on the implementation of the models in this book. These are economic models that I developed specifically for Black people. I'm not thinking about Asian people. I ain't thinking about Jewish people. I ain't thinking about white people. I'm focused specifically on Black people because that is what we need. Black people have had a unique experience in this country. And because we've had a unique experience, I believe we need a unique diagnosis and a unique type of medicine, right? So ultimately, this book, all these models that you find, for example, the Poise model to teach children about wealth, producer, owner, investor, saver, entrepreneur. You're not going to find that in any textbook anywhere. The 3 C's of building an economy in Dallas. That's one thing we did a group exercise where people built an economy within their own group. That's something you'll never see in any other textbook because this was something we created specifically for Black people. Why? Well, because Black people need alternative economies. Black people need alternative institutions. Black people need alternative methods for getting the things that we need for to sustain ourselves. And the other thing too is that the family, when you lost your family, you lost a lot of your wealth because a lot of wealth is connected to family. So even little things like having the culture that sustains families is critical to building wealth. So if you keep on fighting with your cousin them, if you keep on not getting along with your siblings, if you keep keep having babies with dudes that don't give a damn about kids, if you keep on laying down with women just because she's cute and got a nice booty, and you ain't thinking about what kind of legacy she's building, then you're probably going to find yourself struggling with your economics also. If you're paying child support on 8 different kids, it's very, very hard to get ahead financially. I know that it seems like the rappers are doing it, but I know a lot of the rappers. I know a lot of famous rappers, and they're not doing okay either. Kim Kardashian, in fact, let me give you an example of a scenario with a rapper. Uh, Kim Kardashian was just talking about how she cries herself to sleep at night because she's trying to figure out how to raise 4 kids by herself. Well, as you know, Kim was famously married to a guy that I know pretty well, or that I talked to on the phone for literally 10 straight hours, named Kanye West. And when you look at Kanye and Kim, on the surface, they look like two people who have it all. They've got fame and fortune, private jets, lots of money. But you look at what's also happened in terms of Kim crying herself to sleep at night because she's trying to raise these 4 kids, and Kanye over on Twitter, Instagram, and whoever will listen, screaming and hollering about how disrespected he is as a father. And these are the kinds of things I want you to understand and study as they play out, to kind of realize that sometimes the things that you think represent success really isn't success. They may have a lot of money, but they don't have their peace. They may feel powerful in certain spaces, but they feel powerless in other spaces. And so ultimately, what I want you to do is think about the whole picture in terms of what your legacy needs to look like. because if you don't, then you're going to end up making a lot of mistakes. So let me read some of this. I'm actually going to pull up some of these reviews on Amazon, and in fact, maybe I'll even screen share so you can kind of see what I'm looking at here. So this is, I don't know, this is just something fun I wanted to do today, because I think it's, I don't know, it's kind of worth doing because I think it's worth exploring. The response to some of the critiques that may come up, which are valid. The first one is from a guy named JG. It says, I've read Dr. Claude Anderson's Powernomics, and I've been wanting to write a book that offers hope to Black people about building wealth and community economics. Dr. Boyce Watkins is a student of Dr. Anderson's, and he's basically said what I've been wanting to say. The book is straightforward, and it's especially great for parents of young children. My child is on her way to college, but I will be getting a copy of this book for her. As a matter of fact, I will buy several copies as gifts to friends. Dr. Watkins focuses on teaching the next generation to build wealth through ownership of stocks, business, and capital. If you follow his podcast, then this book will read as if he is talking directly to you. I'm excited to work with my wife on the next steps of creating a business that will help our family in the future. This book will not only give you that information, but it will position your mind on why you should create a business for future generations. Now, one of the things that's interesting that steps out here about this particular comment is you're talking about a person who's actually implementing these ideas, right? The thing about it is that there's a lot of fast talking Negroes out here. There's a lot of people out here that can give you a great speech. There are a lot of people that can make you feel good, and all that's important. Great speeches are important. Feeling good is important, but execution is even more important than that. And what I really want you to understand, especially anybody that's the head of a household, mothers, fathers, everything in between, or even a participant in a household, is that you absolutely positively must execute. Mediocre execution is better than some extraordinary idea that never gets off the ground. I've heard people say things that don't make sense to me. I've heard people say things like, well, I should sue Mark Zuckerberg because I came up with the idea of Facebook before he did. Yeah, that's great, but that doesn't mean shit. Excuse my French. That doesn't mean anything. When you came up with the idea, well, anybody can come up with an idea. I can come up with an idea in 30 seconds. But coming up with the idea is not the same as executing and doing literally 10 million little tasks required to complete the idea and see it to fruition. I compare it to the difference between making a baby and raising a baby to the age of 18. Making a baby, the average man, I think, takes about 7 minutes to finish doing the job of making a baby, if you know what I'm talking about. A man can make 10,000 babies in his lifetime if that's all he was doing. And that's what some guys out here doing. They just they just jumping from one lady to the next, and they making a whole lot of babies. So making a baby is easy. But do you know how much time it takes to actually raise a child to the age of 18? I don't know. Let's see, there's 8,760 hours in a year. Multiply that by 18. It takes 157,680 hours to raise a child to the age of 18. 157,680 hours that it takes of changing diapers, feeding the child, taking the child to school, having conversation with the child, taking the child to the doctor, dealing with child's BS, talking to the teachers, all these things that a parent must do. But it takes about 6 to 8 minutes if you're in a hurry to make the child. So what's interesting is that there are some people out here who falsely believe that you are a parent just because you made a baby. Making a baby does not make you into a parent. Having a baby or creating a baby is not the same as investing the 157,680 hours required to raise that baby to the age of 18. So the same thing is true with a business idea. Coming up with an idea like that, that's easy. Anybody can do it. But coming up with an idea does not make you a business owner. Coming up with an idea does not make you an entrepreneur. Coming up with an idea does not mean, give me a yes if you understand what I'm saying. That coming up with the idea for a business is not the same as putting the thousands and thousands of hours of work required into developing that idea from ideation to completion. Those are two different tasks. In fact, if I had a choice between the types of people I want to work with, I would rather work with a person who puts in the time to develop a mediocre idea than to put time into somebody who just knows how to come up with extraordinary ideas and doesn't do anything after that. The idea doesn't mean a whole lot. And so one of the things, but doers understand this. People who complete things understand this. They understand how much work there is required to do this. It's 1% inspiration, 99% perspiration. And so, effectively, I want you to make sure you never get caught in that nonsense of sitting around and coming up with all these ideas and thinking that you've actually done something. You haven't done anything. You've just kind of decided what you think you might want to do. But then there are people who actually get up there and do it, and that's a whole different level. And even when I invest, when I invest in businesses, I don't really. People come to me with billion-dollar ideas all the time. Every city I go to, Doc, I got a billion-dollar idea. It's going to save the whole Black community. Well, that's great. I appreciate that. I hope that it does make $1 billion. But the problem is that I'm not going to invest in your idea just because it's a great idea. You know what I invest in? I invest in businesses that are developed and are actually making money. When you develop that business and you put in thousands of hours to get that sucker going, and that thing is actually generating revenue, that's a whole different animal. You're in a whole different category. You thinned out the herd at that point. You're literally 1,000 to 1 at that point, and you've proven you have what they call proof of concept. So when I investing in an idea is like investing in a sperm, hoping that the sperm is the one of 10 million sperms that actually gets to fertilize the egg. I'm not going to invest in that. What I will invest in though is a newborn baby, because I know that they've already made the cut, right? So what you do is you invest in things. I don't. I'm telling you, people lose so much money investing in somebody's idea. Oh, that's a great idea. Do you know that they can even execute the idea? Do you even know that they have the experience? Do you know that they're even going to put in the work ethic? Do they have the values required to stick with it? A lot of people ain't even got that, right? Because we live in a wimpy society. We live in a wimpy world. Everybody's a victim. Everybody's feeling sorry for themselves. Everybody wants to blame everybody else. The white man did this, and I get all that, right? Those things exist. I've never made any illusion of the idea that white people love me. I know they don't love me, but I love myself, and that's all I need. That's all I care about. Some of y'all, okay, some of the people on social media don't love me. A lot of them don't. I don't care. I love me. I got enough love for me to make up for any lack of love that you may or may not choose to provide. It's okay. Love yourself. Stop running around wondering whether white people like you or not. They don't. I let me just break it to you. They probably don't. But does that make them evil? I don't know. Sometimes they are, but some of them they're handling their business. Are you handling your business? That's the question to ask. Do me a favor, hit the thumbs up button. Thumbs up, share, subscribe. My website is boycewatkins.com, by the way. And I have a list of stocks there if you want to go pick it up. It's a list of AI stocks that I'm invested in, companies that are going to make money with the AI revolution. So feel free to go take a look at that. Also, the All Black National Convention is going to be October 20th at the Marriott Marquis Hotel in Atlanta. So if you'd like to join us for the convention, or maybe you'd like to be a vendor, sponsor, or speaker, feel free to just start on my website, boycewatkins.com. I got a lot of links there for that too. All right. So here we go. So next review I'm reading, let's see. Someone says, I don't see a name. It says, this book was very positive and uplifting. It was a motivational piece that should be read by all in the B1 community. Okay, thank you. Another one. Next, Derek Stokes says, I like the book for its gray and impractical ideals of a family sticking together to make financial gains. Let's see. Chef Julian says, must read economic and self-development. Let's see. Ivy Yancey says, I've always been a Dr. Boyce follower. This book is another masterpiece. Thank you. Miss Cephas, I live this book. Me and my husband have a blended family. I love stories like this. 9 children, all over 18. We plan on having a meeting and starting on our wealth building plan for our family. We are so behind, but I believe this book is one of our guides. We can make it. I like that. I love that, because this family seems to understand is that you don't understand that every Black person is born wealthy. Every single Black person, if you got a family, you're already a millionaire. If you have a family, that means it could be you and your spouse and your children, or it could be the family that you're born into. But literally, every Black person is born wealthy. Let me explain this. I did a more detailed analysis of this when I was in Dallas, but I'll give you the overview on this. Basically, if you think about it, right? Why is it that the white man could sell you and your relatives for so much money back during slavery? Why was it that slave masters paid so much money to own Black people and Black bodies during slavery? Were slaves free? What do y'all think? Give me a yes or no. Were slaves free, cheap, or was it expensive? Did if you owned a lot of slaves, were you considered to be wealthy? Yeah, you were, right? Well, why is that? Well, because your labor has value. And the reason you may not see your own worth or your own value is because you're used to giving your value away free or cheap. Almost like a young girl with low self-esteem. She doesn't realize the value of her womb, so she just gives it away for free, hoping that maybe some guy will buy her a bag of Doritos or something, right? Because she doesn't know the value, she doesn't know her worth. So you sell yourself to the corporate plantation without thinking about how much wealth is being generated from your labor, from your intelligence, just from your existence, your youth, your time. All these things have value. So I want to ask you this question. I need you to process this for a minute. I don't know why more people don't say this, but maybe it took me time to understand this. If they're buying your labor and they're hiring you in droves and they're making billions of dollars from your labor, why is that labor and free time and skill only valuable when it's in his hands, but you don't see the value when it's in your hands, right? Do you understand what I'm saying? Like if you are a black person who is unemployed or a black person who just ain't working for nobody yet, why in the world, who convinced you that you have no value unless somebody has extracted your value by giving you a job or having you come work to build some institution that's going to build their legacy for their family and for their community? I need y'all to understand this. You don't know your worth. So when I say that every black person is born a millionaire or every black person is born wealthy, I can show you. I'm a mathematician. I taught mathematics at the University of Kentucky. I can mathematically show you, and I did this in Dallas. I did this on the board. I can mathematically show you why, based on the present value of an annuity equation used in finance, why you were born a millionaire. But here's one of your challenges. One of your problems is that that wealth only matters if you actually can see it. If you don't see it, then there is no wealth. Also, wealth typically only matters if you're able to actually extract it and convert it yourself. That's another hurdle we have to jump. What does that mean? Well, let me explain. I went to a country. My wife is a brilliant black woman. Shout out to all the smart black women out here. To hell with all these guys that get threatened by intelligent, educated, high earning black women. I'm a fan of all of y'all. You know, seriously, I think these guys that say that they want women that don't make no money and don't got no education, all that. These little, excuse my French, these guys are vagina. They're literally walking vaginas. It's the craziest, like saddest stuff I've ever seen. I'm never going to support any of that. Don't get me wrong. I think that we all have to correct ourselves. We all should do better, but I just want to make that 100% clear. If you're one of those dudes that's constantly complaining about women that are just doing the best for themselves, I think that that's you just basically saying you don't want to step your game up. You're too afraid, right? Okay, so that's fine. I forgive you for you know not what you do. Maybe you'll come out of that. But anyway, my wife, smart black woman, has a PhD, full professor of social work. She got invited to do a fellowship in Guyana. I didn't even know where Guyana was on the map. I wasn't good at geography, but I went with her to Guyana because I was not going to let my woman go to another country without me being there to protect her. So we went to Guyana, and and when we were in Guyana, they discovered a bunch of oil off the shore of Guyana. I'm getting back to my point on this. I just bear with me. Give me like 30 seconds to make it. Well, they had all this oil, and when they valued the amount of oil per capita that Guyana controls, did you know that Guyana has more oil per capita per citizen than Saudi Arabia? How many of y'all knew that? Guyana, I looked it up. I was blown away. They said Saudi Arabia has like, I don't know, let's say 1,900 barrels of oil per citizen. Guyana has like 3,900 barrels of oil per citizen. It was something like that. Literally, Guyana had more oil per citizen than Saudi Arabia, right? But if you go to Saudi Arabia, you see these beautiful cities and all this modern industrialized whatever. You go to Guyana, you're not gonna see none of that. They don't even have hotels next to the airport, right? That's how crazy it was, right? So you think about it, you're like, why is it that Guyana has all this oil and all this money, but they don't. But the standard of living doesn't match that. Well, there's a lot of reasons, a lot of politics, but also the question becomes: if you have all this oil, how you gonna get it out the ground? If you don't have the machinery or the knowledge, the technological know-how to get the oil out of the ground, then it might as well be $1 million hanging from a tree that's 1,000 feet in the air, and you're only 5 feet tall, right? So effectively, what then happens is Guyana then has to go and make partnerships, and you know how the white man makes his partnerships. He's a hardcore capitalist. They make these partnerships with companies like Exxon to help them get the oil out of the ground. And Exxon, being the pimps that they are, they show up and they say, sure, we'll help you get the oil out of the ground, but we need to get our cut. Or the Chinese come along and they say, we'll help you get the oil out of the ground, but we need you to just sign this document that gives us like a 99-year lease on all this property and land so that we eventually own your country. So it becomes kind of a tough situation, right? Well, I think that black labor is in that same category. Black labor, black intelligence, black free time, black education, all these skills that you guys have, you're stuck in this paradox where you've got all this oil buried in the ground. You got all these talented people in your community. You got all these great athletes, these great entertainers, these brilliant people that can become accountants, doctors, and lawyers. And you don't have the infrastructure to extract that wealth. So what do you do if you are a black person with a master's degree or even a PhD and you don't have employment? Well, you just sit at home and you wait for the white man to call you on the phone and offer you a job. Why? Well, because you haven't been introduced to methods that will allow you to extract your own economic value. Give me a yes if you're following what I'm saying. You don't know how to, the oil is under the ground, but you don't know how to drill it out. Right? Well, this is one of the reasons why, and this is one of the things I mentioned in this book. Feel free to go grab a copy. It's called The 10 Commandments of Black Economic Power. I believe that every black child should know how to start their own business by the age of 12. Even if they don't have a capital available to fully live out the vision that they may have for $1 billion company, they should at least be able to psychologically or on a piece of paper lay out the framework of what that organization would look like in the event that they come across access to the capital that they deserve. In the event that somehow white people miraculously all vote to give you reparations, well, I would like to see there be 10 million black youth who know exactly where to put that money, where they're going to flip that money like crazy. They're going to flip that money like a McDonald's cheeseburger. They're going to know exactly how to pour that money into the proper infrastructure that will scale and allow them to turn that million into 10 million or whatever. Because here's the thing, you have people that have just insane amounts of money, athletes and stuff, guys like Ja Morant, who literally don't even know what to do with this money. If I had Ja Morant's money, oh my God, my head would explode. I kid you not. If you want me to show the book, I'm gonna show the book. If I had Ja Morant's money, you couldn't tell me nothing. I would literally lose my mind. I would literally, if I could take just 10% of what Ja Morant makes, there are so many things that could be done with this, right? Well, why? Well, because my financial mind is developed. I can visualize things, even if we can't necessarily afford to do them right away. And so the point is to say that if you don't have economic vision, then it won't matter if somebody puts money in your pocket. It doesn't matter if people put money in your pocket if all you can visualize is running to the damn Gucci store. If that's the only thing you can visualize is yourself in a Lamborghini, running out and buying Prada and Tiffany and Hennessy, and and then buying like a nice outfit to go with it, then you're not manifesting properly. You're not extracting your wealth in the way that's really going to put you in the driver's seat when it comes to this power thing. See, you got to understand this. I need y'all to really pay attention now. You know, this is where, when Kanye and I talked for a long time, this is where I just said, I'm sorry, I don't have this animosity toward the Jewish community the way you do. I just don't care about the Jewish community one way or the other. I study them though, because what you got to understand is there are far more black people in this country than there are Jewish people. Far more. I think we're about 5 or 6 times more in population. But they are killing the game when it comes to positioning themselves and positioning their resources to give them maximum reach, power, and ownership. Pay attention. There's one example that I used last week. I'm gonna put this on the screen. Hit the thumbs up button while we do that, please. Hit the thumbs up button. All right, I'm gonna put this picture on the screen. Y'all gonna like this, okay? Because this is a good wealth example. And while I do that, please hit the thumbs up button. My website is boycewatkins.com, and I have lots of free stuff on that page. If you want to go take a look and get started on your wealth journey. Also, the Black Business School, I should tell you guys about that. We've actually helped over 10 million people buy their first share of stock, and you can get started for free. So don't believe any of the idiots who think that it costs money to go to the Black Business School. That's just not true. We don't shut the door for anybody. We will accept anyone. All right. So here is an image I want you to look at here. Give me 1 second, guys. Hold on. You know what? I'm just going to put it up. I'm going to share it on the screen because this is a good important part of the lesson. So I hope you can forgive me. And by the way, anybody listening on Spotify, you're not going to see this image. But also, just in case you don't know, this podcast is also on Spotify. It's just look up Boyce Watkins and you'll find it on Spotify. All right. So I want to ask you all a quick question. Does anybody know these two people that I'm going to put on my screen? One's white, one is black. Type in the chat who these two people are. All right. All right. So as you type the names in the chat, I'm going to tell you why this is a good example. And if you're on Instagram, in 1 second, I'm going to tell you who's on this screen. In this image, you see one of the most famous, most talented singers in history. One of the best, most extraordinary Black women ever when it comes to singing. Sang like an angel. And with her, you see her manager, who is or whatever he was. His name is Clive Davis. And the Black woman's name is Whitney Houston. And Whitney was one of the best singers on the planet. And the Black church produces tons and tons of young Black women who can sing like angels. And Clive Davis went to see Whitney sing. He heard what the rest of us heard. Next thing you know, the rest was history, right? So Clive makes, $1 billion from Whitney's talent. Whitney probably, she probably in the course of her career ran through $1 billion herself. I don't know, maybe $500 million. Anyway, here's what is interesting to me about this picture. So one's Black, one's Jewish. Both of these individuals, in my view, reflect various stereotypes, good and bad, of our community. Whitney reflects the stereotype of Black people having just so much talent, being the best entertainers on earth. Every Black church in this country has got some little Black girl in there. They should get a record deal, or some Black man that's just as talented as a Chris Brown or whatever, right? He's Jewish. He didn't get next to Whitney Houston by being the best singer in the world. He got in that position by going to Harvard Law School, because he wasn't in a culture, he wasn't in a family that saw. Everybody picks their path. Everybody they roll the dice, they pick their best method to become successful. So when he sat with his family and they said, well, what's the best way, for Clive to get ahead and to become a great man one day? They didn't say, well, Clive, we want you to go to church and sing with the choir because, they're paying choir singers a lot of money. No, Clive was told to go to Harvard Law School. Why? Well, because they understand they're looking at the entertainment industry from two different perspectives. Whitney was looking at the entertainment industry from a production perspective. She was thinking, if I can sing really well, then I can get a record deal. That's what Whitney was thinking when she's in church. Clive is going into the recording industry from a distribution and monetization and ownership perspective. He's thinking, not, can I be the best singer in the world? He's thinking, can I simply position myself as an attorney to become an owner of a record label so that I can go scoop through the Black neighborhoods and pick up all the talent? And this is a consistent partnership that has existed a million times over. Most of my friends in the music industry, when I was when we did our event in Houston, I hung out with my buddy Willie D from the Ghetto Boys. A lot of them have dealt with people from the Jewish community who were managers or agents or record label owners, right? This is something that is part of the culture, right? And also many of us have seen Black people who become entertainers because that's part of our culture. So what I would say to you is that when you're looking at economics in terms of how we go about succeeding, what our value system tells us to do with our time, how we invest the resources that we have, we end up sort of putting ourselves sometimes in a box that may sometimes become the wrong box. I believe that rather than being mad at the Jews, and I said this to Kanye, I said, rather than being mad at the Jewish community, calling them names because they're winning, right? Whenever you win, just so you know, when you start winning, someone will always call you a name because it's easier to call you a name than to compete with you. It's easier to call you a name than to learn from you and actually reach that same level, right? It's easier for me to talk smack about somebody doing better than me than for me to actually try to do better than them. I've already tried that. That didn't work. So now I'm just going to try to besmirch your reputation or whatever. I don't get into any of that. I look at it as maybe as black people, because here's the thing: I know what the Jewish community knows. I taught Jewish students when I was at Syracuse University. I understand. Like, there's no business model they have in place that I haven't been exposed to at some point. And I'm not the only one. You have a lot of people in your community who understand exactly how they were able to accumulate so much wealth and power. And so, what I would uh, ask you to consider is this: look, while we still are going to have our talent's going to ooze. We're still going to have our Michael Jacksons and Whitney Houstons and everything else, our LeBron Jameses and our Shaquille O'Neals. That's just we're just amazing like that. I'm talking to the other 99.9% of you that will never breed a LeBron James, that will never breed a Shaquille O'Neal, that will never breed a Whitney Houston. Maybe some of y'all don't even go to church. Well, the rest of y'all, the question becomes, how do you get in where you fit in? And getting in where you fitting in might mean that, okay, the amount of energy that our family might normally put into sending our kids to football camp, because think about this. There are parents that will spend $1,000 getting their kids through football camp and basketball camp and cheerleading camp that won't spend $10 getting them through an academic program. This is not about access to resources because some of these programs are even free. This is not about not having enough money. This is not about not being able to afford it. This is not about like, oh, well, this is just for rich people. No, no, no. Some of these programs are free. I know people that run free academic programs that still can't get black people to come through. They'll say, well, look, for white people, we charge them $500, but for the black kids, they get to come for free. I still can't get the mama to send their kids. I still can't get the daddy to send their kids, but we will pay money to send the child to the football camp or to the basketball camp. Some of y'all's kids most of y'all's kids are not gonna be playing football after they turn 18. That's it. Their football career will end when they finish high school. So again, I'm not here to undermine the importance of those camps. I think sports are fun. I love sports. I played every single damn sport I could get my hands on. I would have played baseball if my biological father had been around to teach me how to play. He was a pretty good baseball player, but I never learned, so I didn't play stuff I didn't know how to play. But I played them all. Sports are great. Sports are a great way to learn about life, competition, goal setting, delayed gratification, all that stuff, competition, all that. But there's a world that's so great beyond sports and beyond entertainment that I think we miss out on because we focus too much on the same damn thing every time. Again, let's go back to black people in the Jewish community. The Jewish community is about 2.5% of the American population, but they own a lot of shit. They own a lot of banks. They own a lot of entertainment companies. They own entire distribution systems for blockbuster movies. They own entire city blocks where they won't even let you buy on that block because you're not one of them. I'm not mad at none of that. And part of the reason that they own so much stuff is not just because maybe they get certain privileges now. I have no idea. But it's also because that's where they focus. That's where they put their energy. When their kids are saying, "Hey, daddy, how do I become successful?" I don't think there are a lot of conversations that say like, "Well, if you keep on going to football practice, maybe you can make it to the league." Like that's not a. I don't think that's a common conversation in a lot of their families, and so I just think that as Black people, we really have to take our talent and our competitive spirit and just apply it somewhere else. We have to diversify, and maybe to some extent divest in certain things. Because believe me, we're very good. We've made Jerry Jones at least a couple $1 billion. Jerry Jones, the owner of the Dallas Cowboys, black people make him at least a couple $1 billion every year or two. We've done that. But what happens is that you have the cost is so high. The cost is high not just in terms of all the people that don't make it, but it's also high in terms of all of the physical and psychological damage that comes with that. We were talking the other day about Jim Brown and what a great man Jim Brown was. And I just admire Jim Brown extensively. But if I were to be honest about Jim Brown, you would notice that Jim Brown had a lot of incidents later in his life where he was accused of being abusive toward women. He allegedly punching a lady out and all this other stuff that he several times. Well, one thing my wife brought up that I agree with is she said, well, he took a lot of hits to the head. Jim Brown took pride in the fact that unlike Franco Harris, who almost broke his record, Franco Harris, when he was about to take a hit, he would run out of bounds. Jim Brown criticized him because he said, when I played, I didn't run out of bounds. I would go hit right at the opponent and fight for every yard. Well, think about that. Every time he ducked that head, remember the helmets weren't that good back then. He would duck that head and take that hit to the head. So Jim Brown probably had tremendous amounts of brain damage. You can't be the NFL's leading rusher of all time and not have some type of CTE in your head. Seriously, if 99% of the NFL players have CTE, that's the estimate I saw from the doctor who discovered CTE. He was a black man. Will Smith played him in a movie. If 99% of the NFL players have CTE and the majority of college football players have CTE, don't you think that the leading rusher in the history of the NFL would probably have some brain damage too? Or am I just stretching? Or am I just being a hater right now? So I really think that this sports and entertainment route, I don't know if it's benefited the black community more than it's cost us. I can't tell. I'm not sure. For every one black millionaire that we see, in the NBA, there's probably like 1,000 other guys who didn't get that opportunity, who are in terrible situations because all that time spent on the basketball court could have been spent in the classroom. Instead of a lot of our kids trying to be the next Whitney Houston or the next 50 Cent, how many of those kids are trying to be the next Clive Davis? Or is that me just acting white by suggesting that? Because I'm going to also suggest this. Let's pay attention now. Whitney came and she conquered and she did a great job. She was amazing. And then she died. She died too young. She died from a drug overdose. She died in less than honorable or less than favorable circumstances. Just being honest about that. Well, let me ask you this. When Whitney Houston died, did Clive Davis stop making money? When was Whitney Houston Clive Davis's only $1 billion entertainer, $1 billion performer? Is Clyde still going to be okay financially, even though Whitney was gone? Yes or no? He's absolutely fine because Clive Davis had a ton of artists that were making money for him. He has a ton of business interests that are making money for him. He probably owns percentages of companies like Spotify and Apple Music, and he I don't know if he's. I think he's still alive. I'm not sure. I know so. I know one person that knows Clive Davis. His name is Kenny Gamble out in Philadelphia. He's a good friend of mine. And I respect him so much. But really, so my point is to say that I get it. I understand why we might want our child to be the next Whitney Houston. But honestly, it's much easier to become the next Clive Davis than it is to become the next Whitney Houston. You can, for every one Whitney Houston your community can produce, you can produce probably about 1,000 Clive Davises who are, graduating from law school, taking ownership in a company, investing in assets, and understand how to run a company. Again, not putting one above the other, but I think that we might want to rethink how we view the wealth journey. Okay. All right. So do me a favor, hit the thumbs up button, thumbs up, share, subscribe. By the way, this podcast is also on Spotify. If you look up Boyce Watkins on Spotify, you'll find it. Also, the All Black National Convention is going to be October 20th in Atlanta at the Marriott Marquis Hotel. So if you'd like to join us at the All Black National Convention, just go to allblacknationalconvention.com. That's allblacknationalconvention.com. Or you can just go to my website, boycewatkins.com. I put some information there too. All right. So a few more comments about my book. My book is called The 10 Commandments of Black Economic Power. And I started off reading some of the comments that I hadn't seen, just reading them out loud to respond to them. But But we got into some other things. But let me finish going. Let's see here. Dennis says, excellent book, easy to discuss with family and friends. Legacy became a tradition or becomes a tradition. Eric says, highly recommended read. I had to have this book. I enjoy Dr. Boyce's content on YouTube also. Highly recommended read. B1 is the motto. B1 to you too. Elaine says, boy, I have been asleep now. Just buy the book and you won't be disappointed. Okay, cool. Let's see here. Another one. Miss D says, nothing we don't already know. If you can read or listen to podcasts, it takes money to make money and make wise decisions. Try all these suggestions in this book while working paycheck to paycheck. Okay. Let's see. Jazzy Mom says this book is a written blueprint for modern day African Americans. This book and Dr. Boyce's techniques have played an intricate role in reshaping my mindset. Someone else says Dr. Boyce is the greatest economic mind this century. Dr. Boyce's work should be studied for at least 100 years to come. One of the best ways to show love to your family is to show them how to survive economically, which he does in detail during each chapter. Be one for life. Wow, thank you. Those are very kind words. Sorrel says, I thoroughly enjoyed this book. A lot of gems here. I would definitely recommend it to family and friends. Stargate says, the book spells out a very simple and organized way to attain wealth. Change your mindset and you will find change in dollars in your generational wealth. I wish this were an audiobook as well to listen to while stuck in traffic. At some point, I'll make it an audiobook. Honestly, writing a book takes a long time. And I'm super busy, but it is something that I've heard before, and I think I'll do that probably within the next year and a half or so. Let's see here. Someone says the book 10 Commandments of Black Economic Power is a reality check for entrepreneurs that want to make an impact in their family and community. Kamala Pierce says, I want to start this review by saying I'm truly appreciative to Dr. Boyce Watkins for sharing his knowledge. I am so thankful for this book. It's a game changer for my life. The 10 Commandments captures and motivates you. Although the author is a financial master, his delivery in this book is very comprehensible. As a result of this book, my thought process has changed forever. I've told several family members about the book. This book right here, I highly recommend. So if you want to go look at the reviews, I read, the first 10 or 15 that were up there. But if you want to read more of the reviews, just look up the 10 Commandments of Black Economic Power on Amazon. And really, I really just want you to look at the reviews. There's nothing that I would ever tell you guys about. I mean, obviously your support on every level for the Black Business School and everything else is really important because we don't take money from corporations. We don't take money from the government. So you'll never hear black liberation brought to you by Walmart. That's not something that I believe in because I don't think it works. I think freedom, but then again, the problem is that freedom is not free. So while some people make fun of me for having to raise money for the Black Business School or talk about money or everything can't be free, we have to do it because I want to build this institution. I want it to be independent. I don't want anybody telling us what to do. I don't want anybody undermining this message. I would die for this message because I believe in it that much. I know that this stuff works. And so whatever you do, wherever you get your process from, I just encourage you to understand that when you are Black, in my view, you have to think differently. You cannot follow the pathway that was set for you at birth. That is not a pathway. You were not designed in this society to be empowered, free, liberated, none of that stuff. Empowered, free, liberated people are not good for the economy, right? If you have 10 million people or 100 million people that are financially literate, then that means the banks stop making money. That because they're not going to be able to charge you those fees you get for mistakes you make in your bank account. That means corporations don't make money because they can't convince you as easily to come work for them to build wealth for their families. And so, what I would say to you is that you're going to have to come up with this on your own. And I believe every family should have its own curriculum for almost everything, but especially for economics. And that curriculum should center around the three pillars of wealth: stock market investing, real estate investing, owning your own business. If you focus on those three things, as well as a few other nitpick issues here and there, then you're going to be fine. Like all this talk that you hear constantly, this disempowered talk, this victim talk that you constantly get inundated with, that being Black is terrible and there's no way you could fix it and all that. I think that's designed to make sure that you're dependent on other people, right? Because there are people who benefit financially and politically by keeping you in that victim box. Because if you need them, then you're going to give what you can. You're going to give them money. You're going to give them votes. You're going to give them whatever in order for you to survive, because you don't believe you can do it yourself. If I'm convinced that I can't get myself from point A to point B, then I have to ask you for a ride, right? If I'm convinced that I have no legs, then I have to ask you to give me a wheelchair. And I don't think you have to do that. I think racism, yes, structural racism is a real thing, but the racism in the form that people talk about it is it's just yapping. It's just people talking. Most Black people I know who fortify their families, make good decisions, put themselves in a strong economic position, not only are they free, but they are in many cases actually telling white people what to do. And this is not just a new phenomenon. You can go back 40, 50 years and you had some super empowered Black people who wasn't walking around constantly fearing whatever the white man was going to do next. And that's the tradition that gets lost because they want to put you in that victim box. And I'm not interested in that. I don't think that's how you succeed in this society. All right. So anyway, guys, I'm about to get out of here. Please hit the thumbs up button, thumbs up, share, subscribe. And again, you can go to Spotify and look up my name and you'll find this podcast on Spotify. And if you go to boycewatkins.com, there's some stuff there, financial flashcards for kids, or you can find information about the convention, or also the book, The 10 Commandments of Black Economic Power, is available on Amazon. So thank you guys for listening. God bless you. And by the way, tonight on Dr. Boyce TV, I'm going to bring in this woman I've known for a long time, Dr. Mary Stoddard, who her and her husband's a Black cardiologist. And Mary was raised as a sharecropper, literally, with 11 siblings, I believe. And they were super dirt poor, but they got all their kids through college by one child helping the other. It's an amazing story. But here's the other cool thing. Every single one of Mary's kids is a medical doctor or a PhD. She has like 5 kids, if I'm not mistaken. And I believe, and I got to double check, every single one of her kids is a MD or a PhD. Every single one of them. And then even before that, the generation earlier, 11 kids, all sharecroppers, all finished college because they had a model, they had a plan. So I want to bring Mary on today because this is the stuff we need to learn. These people need to be our professors. These are the ones who can teach you how to succeed despite whatever the rest of the world says and thinks. Her name is Mary Stoddard, and she's not a famous person, but she should be. And her husband should be famous too. Because this is something that they did, despite all the, racism, racism's the reason I don't take care of my kids and all this other nonsense. They just grew up on this concept that is politically problematic for some people, but I love it. It's called personal responsibility. It's called accountability. They didn't sit around making excuses. They solved problems. So anyway, so Mary Stoddard, Stoddard, that's who's going to be my guest tonight. And I reached out to Mary because I wanted to know how Mary did it for all the parents out here that are not looking for excuses, but are looking for results. So that'll be on tonight on drboycetv.com. So I'll let you guys know. I'll send you an alert when it happens. All right. Have a good day, everybody. God bless you. Please hit the thumbs up button on your way out. I will see you all soon. Take care now. Peace.
Here we are, clan the isms, cataclysm, great. Our people out here struggling, trying to make it in this state. Everybody out here doing it, but we the ones who late. Now family, we the ones who gotta delegate. Get that money in the power, never be fake. Stick to cosign for 3. What did he say? Create jobs, support our own. Educate the same and buy back your home. Got 3 degrees, triple 10. 3 PhDs, now we on the CNN. DBTV, let's talk about negligence. Ignorance is bliss, but we can turn it to intelligence. Believe none of what you hear, half of what you see. Let's break it down here on Dr. Boyce TV. Here we are.